My name's Randi James. I'm the founder and director of the Institute of Science and Technology at North Central High School. Kids are far more capable than we ever give them credit. We have $1 million worth of equipment, and we let them use it. You give them a place to play and do science for real. Instead of having to outsource engineers and scientists and mathematicians, we have kids right here. It takes a whole community to raise children. It really does. STCU invests in the community, and they're a longtime supporter of education. Collectively, we can make a huge difference. I'm Randi James, and STCU is here for good.
Generating.
Spokane listens when business talks. Welcome to Business Talks, the region's only local business talk show with your host, Ryan McNeese. Business Talks is brought to you by our friends at STCU and Well Dressed Walrus. Now, let's get down to business with Business Talks.
Welcome to Business Talks. I'm Ryan McNeese, and we're here in the studio with Chris Angell. Thank you for being here.
You bet, Ryan. Good to be here.
You've been here before.
Yes, sir.
We're glad to have you back.
Thank
Got
you.
a busy schedule, so we're glad you could make it. We're going to be talking about from confusion to clarity in marketing today.
Yep, that's correct.
And you have a 12-week seminar that's going to happen with Groundswell Marketing this fall.
Yep.
Let's talk about what confusion to clarity means in marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my background has been in real estate for 16 years, and I had this crazy idea this summer that I would take what I've taught agents for years, and I would try it out in the small business community. So this summer I did a beta in Spokane. I had 10 different industries, and the feedback was awesome. It was really great. So I'm excited to bring that now back to a little bit more concerted effort this fall. And
when you did the testing this summer, were you looking for a plethora of various types of business owners or a certain type to make that work?
It was all new, so I wanted to try any industry. I wanted separate industries, so there's no overlap, but I had everything from home inspectors to title reps to home builders, a web design company, a lady who sells T-shirts to moms and kids.
So a lot of different
perspectives. It was a lot of different perspectives. Service businesses, goods businesses. So
what came of that? What perspectives in terms of analyzing that data came from this?
On my end?
Yeah,
it was interesting.
Yeah, it's a two-way street because obviously they came away with...
I was really interested to see what they would think of it. I think the feedback was they felt like... when I ask small businesses, hey, what's your biggest challenge in marketing? The biggest thing I get is I'm really confused about where to start. There's so many things to do now, from social media and then all the things inside of social media to networking to it's overwhelming. And most small businesses are kind of like, I don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
So by the end of 12 weeks, the feedback was great because everybody felt like they had a place to start. They knew they found their voice. They knew what to say, how to market, everything.
And start somewhere.
Yep.
Start somewhere.
Totally.
But that is interesting. I mean, it's kind of like that old cliche of looking at a blank piece of paper for a writer.
Yeah.
Where do you start?
Right, where do you start?
Probably word one.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I think a lot of times small businesses and entrepreneurs, they go out and they have that blank page and they just start doing all sorts of stuff with that blank page, but none of it's thematic or systematic. There's no start and finish. It's just kind of random.
It's not connected, and like you said, systematically, 1 + 2, on and on and on.
Right.
That if you're just kind of one-offing these different ideas, the cohesive maybe marketing theme isn't there. Is that what you're saying?
Yep. I think it's really important to reverse engineer what you're trying to accomplish, and sometimes we don't do that. We don't start with, okay, here's what I want, and here's who I want to serve, and here, what are the tools I'm going to use? We just kind of start and we go, well, let me collect some tools as I go, and I'll just keep trying to use all these different tools.
Throw some different tools in the backpack and move forward.
Let's see if I can use, and so, for example, people will use Facebook a lot, but they're like, I've done Facebook. Facebook doesn't work, or Facebook's dumb.
No consistency.
But nobody really taught them how to use Facebook strategically to find their people and produce a result. So
one thing I found interesting, you mentioned at the beginning, and I know you well, and that you've been in real estate for so long. And I've always found fascinating that the real estate business itself, I feel like, lends itself and is analogous to so many different conversations in marketing or different businesses, meaning the elements and variables of the real estate business, I think, can be utilized as almost a test market, if you will, for the ideas of marketing.
Yeah.
And clearly you've garnered a ton of information over the years from that experience.
I think real estate is just, it's a product. Most real estate agents aren't marketing a house. We have things like IDX, Internet Data Exchange, to, in the Zillow and the different people brokering the information of houses online. So the marketing isn't anymore about marketing the house. It's really about how do you market your own services as an agent I'm looking to buy or sell, finding somebody before they're ready to actually pull the trigger on buying
and
and selling.
engaging with that individual.
Yeah, and that's marketing, apart from a house that you're trying to sell.
Right.
So a lot of marketing in real estate is the marketing we do in law, and we do in insurance, we do even in local goods businesses.
Yeah,
right?
many professional services and otherwise.
Yeah.
It's that engagement with the individual customer.
It's always about your people. You go, who is my business going to serve, and how do I find those people? And if I can find those people and put something attractive in front of them that's valuable, well then, right now we have something we can.
Well, I've always found that
talk
concept interesting in the world I live in the legal world, that people, you'll hear this discussion about, well, are you looking for this type of client or that type of client? And quite frankly, I've always thought that was a disservice and an interesting concept, that we're looking for clients that have an issue that you can resolve.
Yeah.
And problem solving.
Yeah.
Is there a client that has an issue that I can resolve, and try to do that as much as you can, that is not only professionally satisfying, but also obviously fits the need of the client, and it snowballs from there in terms of client services and word of mouth.
Yeah.
But it is interesting how I think even real estate agents probably would say that is, well, what type of client do I want?
It's a really hard question for people to answer, because people don't want to narrow their prospects. They don't want to most people want to cast as wide a net as possible. But the problem when you get to marketing is that if you're trying to be all things to all people, your marketing says nothing to anyone. It can't get through the noise. So many people are broadcasting these days that it's really noisy in the marketing space. And so you have to start to find points of empathy. So empathy actually cuts through the noise. So if you can identify, let's say your product was for single moms, right? And you had some empathy about what that life was like, and your marketing message came from that place, all of a sudden that gets through the noise, because somebody goes, oh, you understand where I'm at.
It's specific enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think your point's well taken, that if you're trying to be general to everyone, you will speak to no one.
Right. Yeah, and that's the problem, because when people, a lot of the confusion that gets created is people pick a tool like Facebook, but they never pick a person. So they have a tool and they're trying to use the tool for everybody, and they wonder why the tool doesn't work. It's not the tool's fault.
The one size fits all isn't working.
Yeah, it's not the tool's fault. It's the message isn't clear. And so you use the tool with no result because you never got clear on your message.
So in terms of sharing maybe pieces and parts of what this 12-week seminar is, what are some ideas that do eliminate this confusion and create this clarity in marketing that you're speaking of?
I'll give you a couple pieces from the actual content we work through in those 12 weeks. The first I would start with is principles. You've always got to get your mindset right about what you're doing. So there are 4 foundational principles: relationship, utility, fans, and funnels. So those are the 4, but I want to go deeper on utility.
Yeah, let's do that.
So Utility was a book written several years ago by a guy named Jay Baer. And utility is about how you be useful to your people, even if how you're being useful has nothing to do with what you sell. And the book has all sorts of case studies about big brands who are finding ways to go out of their way to be helpful to their end user, even if it has nothing to do with what they're selling.
It actually makes perfect sense in an ironic way. Because as you indicated, knee-jerk reaction would be, well, that's not even the business that I'm in.
Right.
However, I think what you're explaining is it creates engagement or value added.
Yep. There was a great, one of the examples he gave in the book was a big hotel chain. I don't remember which one, but you'd know the name if I went back and read it. And they're constantly combing Twitter for people who are geographically located in the city of a hotel where they have a hotel. And somebody's like, hey, where should I go to eat tonight? And you'll see in the response, oh, you should try such and such a restaurant. And there's no call to action at the end of the tweet like, and by the way, like you should grab a room at our hotel.
If you're looking for a place to stay after you're done eating, come here. No,
that's right.
But that's that value added.
Right, exactly.
Providing value up front.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's what the consumer now wants and almost expects. We're almost to the space now where consumers are expecting us to find ways to be valuable.
I believe, and you know this as well as anybody, is it Seth Godin that basically talks about the concept of providing value first, which is really the concept that you're mentioning as an example with a hotel chain, is before providing a great room and a great experience in that regard, help them out with their restaurant choices.
Right. Yeah.
Add value first.
Yep, exactly. So the first thing really that you've got to get clarity in marketing, you've got to start to get clear about these principles. And utility is one of those principles where you start to go, okay, if I can be useful to my people, then they'll think of me first when they're ready to do something that I sell.
Top of mind.
Exactly. The second principle, or the second thing that we work through then, is people. You got to start to pick your people. We just talked about it a minute ago. You can't cast a wide net. You've got to get really clear about who you want to serve. Kevin Kelly, founder of Wired Magazine, came out with an article years ago called 1,000 True Fans. And it was really just about like, look, you don't need millions. You need 1,000 true fans.
I think this concept's fascinating to me.
And if you have 1,000 true fans, those fans go tell others about you. And so now you, instead of marketing being a one-to-one type of exchange, it's one-to-many. You're marketing to your 1,000 true fans, and your 1,000 true fans are telling all of their spheres and family about you.
But they're not a million untrue fans.
Right.
Meaning I really do get that concept that you're taking 1,000 people that really do care and identify. I think Pearl Jam has been a case study in that
it's a great example, that
they've produced a lot of their own, I think all of their own records, and they have true fans, a true base that then spreads the word.
Right, exactly. That's exactly it.
It's an exciting concept, and I think you live and breathe this.
Yeah, I get pretty fired up about it. Just because I've seen so many people beat their head against the wall trying to do marketing in real estate or any other business for that matter, and just get really frustrated that they can't make a real, genuine, and authentic connection with the people they're trying to serve.
I think it's exciting. Let's take a short break, come right back and chat more about the 12-week seminar in terms of coming out of confusion to clarity in marketing with Chris Angell. Thank you.
My name is Randi James. I'm the founder and director of the Institute of Science and Technology at North Central High School. Kids are far more capable than we ever give them credit. We have $1 million worth of equipment, and we let them use it. You give them a place to play and do science for real. Instead of having to outsource engineers and scientists and mathematicians, we have kids right here. It takes a whole community to raise children. It really does. STCU invests in the community, and they're a longtime supporter of education. Collectively, we can make a huge difference. I'm Randi James, and STCU is here for good.
Generating electricity is a complex process, but when you think about it, what we do is pretty simple. We turn water into ideas, natural gas into a helping hand, wind into lifelong memories. We provide energy for life.
Welcome back to Business Talks. I'm Ryan McNeese, and we're here in the studio with Chris Angell.
Thanks, Ryan.
Right before we left, we were talking about the principles of coming out of confusion to clarity in marketing. Let's finish those off first.
Yeah, the last one I had. So we had utility from principles. People, you really got to get clear about who your 1,000 true fans are. Who do you really want to serve? Because with that, then you can start to have marketing that pierces through all the noise.
How do you identify who 1,000 true fans are? And I obviously kind of latched onto that word because let's say you do have 1,000 quote-unquote followers on Facebook or some other social media platform. How do you know those are true fans?
Yeah, it's great. Your fans on Facebook, for example, aren't necessarily true fans. You might have true fans in the mix.
Within that 1,000.
But they won't, all 1,000 won't be true fans. True fans it's hard to measure that, right? Because true fans are the people who are they're gonna buy all your stuff, they're gonna come to all your events, they're just always showing up.
Loyalty.
Yeah, loyalty. So it's really hard to measure that, but you can sort of take a stab at it. You can be like, well, if I have 1,000 fans on Facebook, clearly I don't have 1,000 true fans, so I better build that bigger.
Right.
But I think the question you were going was how do you find who that is? Yeah, and I think the place you got to start is a lot of times we are our own tribe. So when you think about the things in life that you value,
right,
you have particular worldviews or ways you see the world. A lot of times we have instant connection with people who see things the way we see things. And so if you can come from that place, most people in their marketing, they try to water down their message so they don't offend people. They don't want to get political. They don't want to get religious. They don't want to get
this might
opinionated about anything.
Right.
Yeah, about anything. And so what happens is they say
this might offend 30% of my quote unquote fans.
Yeah, And so they hedge what they're saying to not offend. But if you could just start to figure out, what are you passionate about? I always start with clients, like, figure out what you could talk about on a daily or weekly basis.
Something that's natural.
Something that's natural, something you're passionate about. Doesn't have to be what you sell. Because remember, utility is about being useful, even if how you're being useful has nothing to do with
and
what you
adding
sell.
value. So that, again, that real estate agent, yes, they of course sell houses, but they
Right.
might be passionately speaking on a
Yeah.
weekly blog or daily basis about classic cars or something.
Exactly. Right. Totally. So finding the thing, and this is important because in marketing, really the marketing of this day and age is content marketing. The more content you can create, the more your fan base can get to know you, right? So you want to reverse engineer some sort of topic or content you're going to be consistent with. And so the best place to start for that isn't necessarily who's out there that wants to learn something, but what could I talk about consistently that I wouldn't get tired of talking about?
Yeah. That has enough depth that you could
Yeah.
routinely come back to it.
Yeah, I mean, if your topic was macrame, you
Yeah.
know, you might run out of stuff to talk about pretty soon, right? But
I'm sure there's somebody that's saying they could talk all day long.
there
about
may
that.
be
Not I.
nor I, but yeah, you want to find some topics and some things that have some legs, that have some depth that you can run with, and from there, then you can start to go out and find others who have a similar value or perspective as you.
And then build on that.
Exactly. Yep. Totally.
What has motivated you over the years to really delve into the psychology and the minutia, really, of the logic and rationale, psychology behind marketing? You live and breathe this. You understand it. You not only are an expert yourself in this category, but you also are continuing to read and update and kind of imbue yourself with this. What do you think the core
it's a
of
good
that?
question.
Because it's a fascination, right?
It is totally a fascination. I think I've always been fascinated by people. I can remember back in college, I carried around one of those little month-at-a-glance calendars in my back pocket that was kind of tall and slender, you know. And I would see people on campus, and I'd be, hey, like, who are you, and what are you passionate about?
Yeah, and they probably thought you were nuts.
They
for
thought I was
starters.
nuts.
But that makes sense to me.
Yeah, no, but it totally thought I was nuts. But I would be like, well, let's go out. I want to have lunch with you sometime. Let's have lunch, and I want to talk about what you're passionate about. And people were like, what?
Well, in essence, that's what I get to do here on Business Talks. I mean, I am always, the core of it is fascinated with what is your story? What makes you tick?
Yes,
and,
I love that stuff.
And clearly that's what you were doing in that college example. And I think what you're doing in your seminars is trying to understand what makes the folks that are attending this seminar, what makes them tick.
Yeah.
And if they can identify what makes themselves tick, what they're passionate about, it might lead into a sincere connection with their fan base.
I think that's a good observation, because I think where I value authenticity a ton. I value having things that feel right.
And we know
you
it
do
when
them.
it's not, don't we? I mean, I think the general
Big
public
time.
identifies it pretty fast.
Yeah. Yeah, if we like people in business, when we're trying to do marketing and it doesn't feel right, we know it doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
But then we try to talk ourselves into it, or be tough on ourselves, or like, oh, I just got to make those phone calls 'cause I'm supposed to. But the reality is, everybody has their own superpower. And I think I've always been interested in how people are wired, what their strengths are,
And play to those strengths.
and play to those strengths. I think it started with me. I've always been a seeker personality. I've always sought truth, whatever that is, like trying to figure out.
Kind of that classic get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
But again, your college
Yeah.
example is a good one, because you have the gumption and the passion and the self-confidence to walk up to those folks that you were indicating and say, hey, I want to sit down with you and understand your story. Because somebody else would say, I can't even believe you do that. I wouldn't even be able to go across the room and talk to this person. But you were doing that at a young age.
Yeah.
So you think you've just kept doing that?
It just, I think it's really, and I think as I got into business, it started to find different ways to manifest itself or show up in how I interacted with people. But my thirst for learning, and I think comes from a desire to understand the world that I live in and what makes it work for people. When I was
what doesn't work. You honestly learned just as much from that.
I moved to Spokane in 2007 to be a CEO of a real estate company locally. And so I did that for 5 years. And in that process, I saw a lot of my agents who bumped up against things that didn't work for them, and then tried to talk themselves into it. And so a lot of
keep doing what didn't work.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Keep reinforcing the things they think they're supposed to do, but they don't like doing.
Yeah.
And I kept seeing that. I have such a passion to help people that I was like, there's got to be a better way. And that seeker part of me kicked in, and I'm like, I've got to find a different way into.
Can't this be done differently?
Right.
Kind of that
Yeah.
almost, can we work smarter, not harder philosophy?
Yep. In college, I was labeled a rebellious spirit. Like I've always had this thing of like, I challenge the status quo. I just think differently than how most people think.
Where do you think that came from?
I don't. It could have been passed on from my dad.
Yeah?
He was
Was he like that?
He was a, yeah.
Let's just
Let's just say that.
Yes.
Yes.
But truly, I think we all do, to a certain respect,
Yeah.
from parents, grandparents, close friends, et cetera, that you take on maybe some of those traits that
Right.
you value.
Yeah. I think that's been a fun evolution too for me, is coming back to, you get into business. I got into business at 24, and you get in and you start learning all the things about business, and you try to like bend and contort to like how you're supposed to be. And at some point, now I'm 41, I come back to, why am I twisting and turning all these ways? Like I've come, it's like a return path to myself. And I'm like, okay, now this is who I am. This is where I'm going. Let me help put other people in their skin about what they're doing.
Yeah, I think you do, though, keep coming back to the word that I like that you speak to is authenticity.
Yeah.
Because just what you were saying there,
Yeah.
you're coming back to
Yeah.
what you know to feel true, sincere, authentic.
Yeah.
And you've done a series on that as well, the
Right.
authentic business person.
Right.
And I think that means so much, whether it be here in Spokane, locally, regionally,
Yeah.
nationally, is finding those organizations, institutions, businesses that are authentic.
I think that's really I think when you can get to, so we're talking about confusion in marketing and getting to clarity. I think when you can have you as the baseline for all of your operations and the way you think and how you're going to behave in marketing, when you honor your strengths and how you're wired, and that becomes your baseline, all of a sudden marketing isn't as confusing, because you can feel what feels right and what doesn't feel right. And you start trusting yourself more. In the beginning, we don't really trust ourselves, because we're like, well, I'm new to business. Who am I to? I'm new to marketing. Who am I to say? I guess
What's
I should
my
do what they tell me
voice,
to do.
and what voice do people want to hear? And on and on and on.
But as you go through, and where I'm at now in life is trying to connect people to that feeling, when you can feel if what you're doing resonates with you or not. And if it doesn't, then you need to find something that feels good to you, because that's your baseline for action and getting out into the world.
Yep. And it is interesting in business schools across the country. There is kind of an education base, marketing base as to a structure that they teach to.
Yeah.
But I think you're speaking to so much more than that.
Yeah.
You're speaking to, okay, here is the common structure of marketing philosophy, marketing thought. Then there's the whole other side to it. And to me, that's what you have spoken to and continue to speak to is, okay, you should always understand the fundamentals. But then the piece I don't think is talked about as much, maybe in education, is the true self, the authentic, what is working for you. Because just because you grab somebody else's textbook doesn't mean that actually is going to work for you. You got to kind of do it the way you do it.
It's a real hard one to describe to people. They're like, well, tell me what you do. And it's hard to say, like, well, look, this 12-week thing isn't like, it's about marketing.
Right.
Absolutely. But it's not just marketing, right? Gary Vaynerchuk, do you know Gary? Yeah, he's been hitting this hard the last year, which I love, and it's just self-awareness. He's like, look, self-awareness is one of the most important things you can do to set yourself up for success. And it's a hard one to teach.
Right.
Like, there's no like course at Gonzaga on, self-awareness 101, but it's imperative.
And you might be embarrassed to take that class.
Yeah, right.
Shouldn't be.
I would not be, because I'm the guy that asks people what they're passionate about and haven't ever met them before. But.
Well, and you're absolutely right. There should be a class on that, because that in and of itself is kind of the core of understanding. And self-awareness, we could take that a little broader. Is self-awareness of your organization. Sure. Not even necessarily an individual owner, individual member or principal or staff, but rather self-awareness of your organization. A book that I feel like touches on this is Small Giants, and talking about the concept, who are we?
Yeah.
Do we want to just grow because we can grow, or do we want to maintain who we are, the self-awareness?
It's deep. That's it, man. I mean, that's the stuff I love, is like, how do things work? And when you dive into the truth of how things work, like this is the type of truth that kind of bubbles to the surface. You're like, oh my God,
you can sometimes you can't even necessarily explain it, but then you can identify it when you see it. It's that scenario. There's even some local companies that I think have done this, where they have such an amazing culture and self-awareness, if
Right.
we're using that word,
Yeah.
and really understand who they are and what makes them thrive,
Yeah.
and then they're potentially,
Yeah.
maybe an outside corporation comes in and buys them, do they lose that self-awareness? Do they lose
Yeah,
who
yeah.
they actually are?
Yeah, I think that's
Which then
important.
ultimately, does it defeat the purpose
Right.
altogether?
Right. What did they just buy?
Yeah.
Or how is that going to?
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. I think when you start to have a sense of who you are and what you now listen, you don't have to come into this class or come into marketing in your business like fully enlightened. I don't want to have people misunderstand that. It's not
Right.
like, okay, I can't do any marketing until I have like enlightenment.
No,
That's-
this 12-week process is to get there.
Right. Yes, and you could even not come to the 12-week class and look at your life about where have you produced results that you felt good and where have you produced results that took a lot of effort. And you could start to turn over puzzle pieces and put the clues together. But this 12-week program is really designed to help you get there faster and accelerate that learning curve. The last piece there were 3 pieces: principles, people, and the last one is tools. And I think tools is where most people start. They're like, oh, Facebook and YouTube, and I'm going to make video. And we start with tools because it's easy to quantify, or they're sexy. We're like, oh, video is amazing. Or I'm terrified of video. Well, either way. But if you start with tools without having self-awareness, then you won't know what to say with all the tools, or you won't know what to do with all the tools.
Need the other for chicken before the egg
Yeah.
to know what tools to use.
But it's really important that at the end, as you figure out the principles and the people, that finally you do have a sense of what tools am I going to use. You don't have to use them all. I think that's a misconception.
Yep.
I think people feel like they have this huge to-do list of all the
I have
different
all
marketing
these
places
options.
I'm
I
supposed
gotta
to
use
be.
them all.
And
Nope.
you
Start
don't.
somewhere.
You're trying to reverse engineer a result. And when you know what that result is, you can pick the right tool for the job and get it done. And in this 12-week program, that's what I walk you through, is how do we use just a couple tools, keep it really simple, and we actually in the 12 weeks implement as we go. So it's not about just knowledge, it's knowledge and implementation over the course of 12 weeks.
Chris, as we end here, how can people sign up for this 12-week seminar? How can they find you? How can they find more information about you?
Yeah, the best way to get on the wait list for that course is to go to groundswellbc.com/GM application. That's Groundswell Marketing Application. So groundswellbc.com/GM application. It'll take you to an application page. And if you're interested, just fill it out. Well, I don't know if you're a fit for the program or not, so if you fill it out, then I can follow up with you and
Perfect.
go from there.
Chris, thank you for being
Thanks,
here.
Ryan, for having me.
I look forward to having you come back again. Love
Please,
talking
this is
about
always so fun.
Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Business Talks is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksOnline.com, which is solely responsible for its content. Ask a question, recommend a guest, and hear this program again online anytime at SpokaneTalksOnline.com. Business Talks is brought to you by our friends at STCU and Well Dressed Walrus. Business Talks wishes you good business and a good day.
My name's Randi James. I'm the founder and director of the Institute of Science and Technology at North Central High School. Kids are far more capable than we ever give them credit. We have $1 million worth of equipment, and we let them use it. And you give them a place to play and do science for real. Instead of having to outsource engineers and scientists and mathematicians, we have kids right here. It takes a whole community to raise children. It really does. STCU invests in the community, and they're a longtime supporter of education. Collectively, we can make a huge difference. I'm Randi James, and STCU is here for good.
Generating electricity is a complex process, but when you think about it, what we do is pretty simple. We turn water into ideas, natural gas into a helping hand, wind into lifelong memories. We provide energy for life.